Finally, let's pull things together and say, okay, let's pull all the products together, whether they're existing or they're new, and let's look at our revenue and our costs and how those will play out over the next 4 years. First part we notice here is that the revenue plan is highly dependent on these new products because the existing products are falling. We have a rising new products, and we're seeing the impact is we might start off the year 2019 with 1.1 million in existing product sales and only $100,000 in new products. But look at what happens over time. Over time, we're going to see substantial drop off in the existing products, and we're going to see, or hope to see, the substantial increase in the growth of the new products. So this is the first major outcome, is we're seeing the sales mix. We did these independently, but now we're putting together. Also, we see these very important metrics of the gross margin. Actually, this is one of my pet peeves. This is kind of untouched spreadsheet from the author. I find a lot of very strong finance people still call a gross profit a gross margin. And here's the easy way to remember it. Gross margin is a percent, or any margin, any profit margin is a percent, whether it's gross margin, operating margin, pre-tax margin, or net margin. All those are percents. So when you hear the word margin, you should think percent. On the other hand, when you hear the word profit, it should be measured in a dollar amount. So here we have gross margin, first in dollars. So I would say this should actually be gross profit. I'm going to make this change while you're watching. So this really should be profit. Now it makes sense. Gross profits are dollars, gross margins are percent. All right. So then we can explain some of these through graphs. This is a pretty telling graph where we're looking at time starting with 2014 with the historical data, moving out to 2020, which is our planning horizon. And we're seeing existing products being big and going down. And we see new products coming out of nowhere and going up. It shows the risk, frankly, in this whole scenario, is that there's a lot of sensitive product assumptions here. And the future of the company is in the hands of the sales and the marketing people to deliver on these sales. Here, I have many pet peeves, as you know, or grow to know. One of them is right here. That says sales by product. And you might say, well, isn't that sales per product? Yes, but the flaw, again, this is things I've learned in consulting. You would never, I hardly use the word never, but you would never just put a generic title. It is descriptive, but is a completely not specific. I could have that be for McDonald's French fries, right? Sales by product. What it should say is the message. So when we're presenting anything to senior or any management or any audience, the title of the slide should be representative of the message that you want to convey. So here, the title, when we get to a presentation, I would propose something like existing products, it's right over here. Existing products will decline, but new products are coming, right? So then when you look at it, first you're saying, okay, let's see if I buy the conclusion. So yeah, I see the existing products going down, and yeah, I see new products are rising. This title is descriptive and is fine for an Excel sheet to have a descriptive title. But when it comes time to presentation, take those out, take out the generics, and then add the ones that start telling the story. When we present, we're telling a story that leads to some conclusion that hangs together. The next one is on bar charts. And this we call this a stacked bar chart. And again, it starts with historical, 2014, out to the planning horizon, 2020. This is a very clear depiction, and it's not a fancy graph, but it's quite clear. On top it says sales existing versus new. Okay, at least we're starting to get at what is the meaning or the purpose of this graph. But I would title this, New Products Will Be Significant by 2020 and Restore Sales Growth. Because what you see, if you only look at blue, it goes up and it declines. And unless we can replace those sales declines with new sales, overall sales will fall. So this story is an important one because it is the bet we're making on our new products, is that we know the old products are going to start falling off just because they're positioned in the product life cycle. And we know that these new products are necessary. So if things happen the way we hope or expect or project, this will happen, right? End result is sales will drop. You can see it right here. In 1 year, go negative, but thereafter, we're going to start improving again. Now, we have some fantastic growth rates here, but then we're going to have some tough times ahead. right? So there's quite a bit of information on this particular graph. Next slide is revenue and growth. I guess I didn't have to do that work because it's right here. So it shows in the charts, the blue bars, the revenue itself, and you see the same thing. It's exactly the same data showing it rising, actually declining for a year, and then resuming a more gentle sales growth. The scary information is the gold line, the growth rate. We see good growth rate. See the vertical axis here on the right. Growth rate is double digits. All of a sudden we go negative. That's the sales decline. And even when it goes again, it's still very modest growth rates. So revenue growth, again, descriptive, but kind of useless. I would change this to be sales growth will just decline substantially, but will still grow slightly by 2020. Right? So that might be a sign. And the purpose, if I have this title and you see it, you might forget the title before, but now you're starting to get a message. So if somebody asks you in the coffee room, hey, how did that presentation go? You would say, you know what, their sales are going to be in trouble because new products better come through or they're going to be in real trouble. Like you're able to plant those thoughts and plant those conclusions in the minds of the audience. Next is gross profit and gross margins. And this is what I was talking about, gross profit, not margin, dollars and margin percent. So here we have a first peek at profits. All the other slides we've looked at thus far are revenues. Here we see product margin improving. And furthermore, we see the actual gross profit dollars also improve. Despite this pretty ugly sales growth where we see it declining substantially, we're able to maintain our profit margins and actually improve it slightly. The existing products, not as strong as the projected margins for our new products. So hopefully this happens, that somehow we remix the company to get back on firm footing with new products. And furthermore, that the new product can deliver higher gross profit margins so that the bottom line impact will be favorable. So this is the set of graphs that come from this set of data that come from the underlying detailed aspects of the specific products. So this is a pretty simple model that does revenue growth, revenue estimate, and just one line of expense, cost of goods sold. And it captures some, I would have to say, not every one of those 12 disciplines are here from the best practices, but it does show the construction, some of the Excel hygienes of kind of highlighting things. If we were to build a more robust model, we may have a whole separate section on top that's clearly labeled input section. Sometimes there's an entire tab that has nothing but assumptions. So it really depends on the complexity and size of the spreadsheet. This is a pretty simple one. So they were accomplishing highlighting the key assumptions and variables through using, in this case, green. And I did kind of the what is things to watch out for with my own overlay of other colors. So Excel makes it pretty easy to work. And this is a kind of a quick model, not full rigor 12-step model, but one that would do the trick. All right, so we'll go back to our presentation. So we looked at the sales of existing. We saw sales of new. These are projections. Then we saw the impact overall on revenues and profits for the company, at least at the gross profit margin level. Then we saw some graphics that convey in pictures far better than numbers. Most people can get the conclusions as we were describing on the graphs, whereas they'd have to pour in their brain, would have to process heavily to get to see what's going on with the data. What happens in the human brain, by the way, is you look at numbers and you're trying to visualize the trends and the changes anyway. So your brain is trying to process into something that is about revenue mix, revenue growth, and things of that sort. So might as well make it easy for the audience and provide them the graph. So chapter 4 was a pretty simple chapter. It looked at just the all-important nature of creating models. If we wanted to build a super rigorous bulletproof model, it went through the 12 steps on how we would do it. So a significant strategic planning model, or one that is revolving around a major acquisition of another company, would bear that level of rigor. If we're doing a quick analysis, in this case, doing some projection of revenues, a few spreadsheets and tabs, that's fine too. And we can follow these best practices as warranted based on the complexity and importance of the model. But if we want to do one completely right, we could see the steps, and you may not go from 1 to 2 to 3 all the way through to 12. You may do what we tend to do these days, which is more of an agile method of model development, where you might start with something very light and quick and then build and refine over time. that's probably the suggested thing to do in most business things anyway these days, not to take 2 months to do something and then have, here's the silver bullet. It's better to spend a week, do a quick analysis, show it, get feedback, and then add another layer of refinement and precision, and then do that iteratively over 2 months. And I'll bet that the end result through this iterative approach will be better than the come out of a dark windowless room after 8 weeks of work and say, voila, right? So anyway, we're going to be doing a lot of models, and this is one where we just take a little pause to just call out the whole idea of a model and talk about some spreadsheet hygiene and some best practices in creating models. Thank you.